Hey everyone, Steven here. I'm using this video as kind of a test video to test out the audio for the podcast, but just finished a workout and I just recently got back to where I live from Winnipeg. I was flown out on a company trip, so I thought I'd share a little bit of experiences from that. This is a work trip. We all work remotely. We work across Canada. So we're all flown into Winnipeg. I'm newer, so I haven't met anyone else before. I'm the youngest one in the group. Like always, there's like 10 of us there. Most of the time we're at the hotel and we've done some awesome activities like axe throwing at the rec room, and the go-karts were really fun too. The food is fantastic there. The situation is me being the newest member on the team, the only person that hasn't met everybody else. And now we're sitting and we're having some meals together. Of course, everyone ordered whatever they ordered. So I was the only one that didn't order any sort of animal flesh on their plate. Didn't really ask anyone anything about their meals. And every time I would get mine, there would be lots of eyes and lots of questions on it. It was actually a really interesting experience because I was exactly where they were thinking the same questions, just not too long ago, this previous year. So I really appreciated the chance to answer the questions they had. And they were very good questions. And they were all very open-minded talking about the plant-based diet and veganism. None of them there were already aware that I had changed my diet to go plant-based and I was learning more and more about veganism. It was probably pretty different for them to have me, one of the team members here, just ordering something else. So anyway, they asked me a bunch of questions about it and they were great questions. They would poke fun a little bit at me. I would poke fun back at them. So it was a great experience, but I wanted to talk about a couple questions. The one question that one of the gentlemen had was about one of his family members being a farmer. And, I always try to put myself in the person's shoes that I'm talking to because I had the same ideas as they did not many months ago. So when you're asking a question like that, it's because it's almost like I'm attacking. And he admitted this as well. My philosophy would be attacking the livelihood of his person that he cares about because he's a farmer. And of course, my answer to that was we all have a choice where we work. But let's get into it a little bit deeper, right? Because you might feel that way, or I would feel that way if someone asked me a couple months ago, actually, before I learned everything I know now. If my brother had decided to join the animal agriculture industry as a farmer or something like that, and someone else I was talking to had certain views that no animal should be exploited and killed and all that kind of stuff, you're kind of attacking my brother and his livelihood. So I would get a little bit defensive. So I always try to think of it in that sense. I'm not here to argue or anything like that, but I would have to step back a second, right? And this is what is important to do, is to take a step back and apply the critical thinking. And it's not that it's your loved one that is being attacked or his livelihood that's being attacked, because we all have choices where we work. And throughout the course of our lives, we have many career changes for the most part. It's more about the industry itself, right? It's not that I would be upset because I think my brother's doing a bad thing. Is I don't think the industry should exist in the first place for my brother to work at, in the example I gave, right? So anyway, it's important to use that critical thinking and to take a step back. We've all got really defensive over something, and then we thought about it later on and we realized we probably shouldn't have gotten so defensive or testy about it. I think that's one of those things where you almost have to take a step back and say, no one's attacking your loved one and questioning any skills that he's good at or the hard work that he puts into. The question is actually, the philosophy rather, is the industry needing to exist in that of itself. So yeah, there's not a question in your family member's abilities or anything like that. It's the philosophy that the industry shouldn't exist in the first place. Okay, so imagine I showed up tomorrow for the same dinner and I quit. I put my 2 weeks notice in. I've got to leave. I'm giving you my notice. I'm quitting. And all my coworkers were like, "It sucks that you're going. What are you doing now, Steve?" And I said, "I'm opening a farm, actually. It's going to be called the Golden Mare." And now you're kind of proud of me, maybe. You've got some extra questions, of course. What kind of farm is this, Steve? And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, it's a wonderful farm. We breed golden retrievers and horses, and they've got lots of space to roam around. We've got to make sure they're super healthy and strong, and they've got lots of protein. So we feed them organic plants and grains. And yeah, they just have a great life, and it's over by the countryside, like 2 hours away." So now you're thinking, "Okay, it's great, Steve. Maybe you're congratulating me. And now you're going to ask me, how do I monetize this? Do people come in and see them? Maybe they ride the horses. Maybe it's like goat yoga, but with dogs." So anyway, you're asking me these questions. I would respond, "Yeah, thanks for asking. Actually, what we're doing is this." So the males on the farm, they're going to eventually be tied down and forcefully ejaculated, either with some electricity or by other manual methods. And all the females on this farm, all the golden retrievers and the horses, they would actually be put into a cage or a rack, and we would forcefully impregnate them by shoving ourselves inside of them. They'll go through a couple months of pregnancy, 8, 9 months, kind of like, the females in our world too. And once the babies are born, we've got to take the babies away right away, even though the mother's trying to get to them. Obviously, they're really maternal, you know that. And we'll take the babies away so that the babies don't drink the milk. Essentially, the moms would do this 4 or 5 times until they can't produce any more babies. So that's less than halfway through their lives. And we don't really have much of a use for them anymore. So we'll actually send them to a facility where, that's where they'll be processed, of course. They can kind of sense the blood and the sear, and they don't always go willingly. So sometimes we use an electric poker just to keep them in line, right? And once they get to the end of the line, of course, we've got to stun them. So we've got to make sure it's natural and humane. So we've got to stun them. So we use a bolt gun to their head and we'll make sure they're stunned. Usually it's one bolt. Some of the times it takes a couple bolts to get to the right spot. Every once in a while, they're not fully stunned anyway before going to the next station. And when they hit the next station, they're actually strung upside down, these golden retrievers and horses, all of them. They're strung upside down by their back foot. And then we slit their throats as humanely as we can. We slit their throats, we let them bleed out, and then we remove their skin from them. So yeah, thanks for asking. And now you'd probably be looking at me in shock, thinking, maybe questioning my decisions, maybe questioning what this industry is, because it sounds like every step of that way was animal abuse. It sounds like I'm abusing a bunch of dogs and horses. So you're maybe calling me an animal abuser at this point. Steve, what's going on? Like, you're just abusing these animals for what? To skin them? Like, I don't get what you're doing with these golden retriever skins and everything. So what I say to you in return is, no, no, no. I wouldn't be crazy to do that. That's animal abuse. No, no. After they're skinned, of course, we take all their body parts, we chop them all up, and they're actually going to this restaurant tomorrow. That's my first shipment. So this restaurant will be getting some fresh horse patties and some fresh dog burgers as well that they could put on the grill. See, if I said something like that, you might question why I would ever do that. You might think it's insane. You might question the need for an industry like that. So it's not that I'm not a hard worker or anything like that. It's the industry is unnecessary and it's just kind of strange. So the point is that no one's questioning the personality of your coworker or your friend in this case. No one's questioning the soul of his loved one for working on the farm, but it's the industry itself that exists. And if I told you, again, tomorrow I did my golden retriever farm, I did the exact same processes that everything that they're eating on their plate happened to these animals, they would probably question me a little bit on it. So again, this is not to attack them or their livelihood. It's the industry in question. The fact that we have choices is the crux of this matter. And that was my response. It's just that there's a choice, but the choices are the crux here, right? Because in the event that we have these choices, and some farmers, by the way, there are public records of these farmers that have started to make the choices of either switching industries or they love the animal aspect of things so much and they work so hard that they're adapting and they're farming different things and in different methods and they're doing all sorts of different things. There's sanctuaries mixed with like oat farms and hemp farms. So I'll put resources underneath here if anyone wants to look at some of the different options farmers are choosing to make to get out of this industry that they don't believe is the right thing to do because they're hurting a bunch of animals for no reason, right? I can't justify my golden retriever farm and my horse farm because of the milk, the horse milk and the dog milk. And that was just like the adults. I didn't even mention what I would do with the young kids that we've separated. If they're males, then I would just kill them right away because I can't use them. And if they're females in this hypothetical horse and dog farm, then I would just make them in the spitting image of their mother and they would go through the same thing their mother went. They'd get fattened up and impregnated over and over again and then sent to slaughter. So again, no one's questioning his abilities or anything like that. It's the industry. In fact, it's dangerous even for himself. They work extremely hard and the danger is inherent in those industries, not only from, animals that don't want to die fighting back against you, but also I've read the statistics on the depression rates. They're kind of alarming. There's all sorts of violations, human rights violations in industries like that as well. And this is all for a product that is unnecessary. That is such an important thing to remember. It is unnecessary. And it's not just opinion-based unnecessary. It is not needed for health and for longevity and to thrive. The leading organization of food and nutrition professionals, this is their position in the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
It is the position of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that appropriately planned vegetarian, including vegan diets are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may provide health benefits for the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. These diets are appropriate for all stages of the life cycle, including pregnancy, lactation, infancy, childhood, adolescence, older adulthood, and for athletes. Plant-based diets are more environmentally sustainable than diets rich in animal products because they use fewer natural resources and are associated with much less environmental damage. Vegetarians and vegans are at a reduced risk of certain health conditions, including ischemic heart disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, certain types of cancer, and obesity.
So the necessity is simply not there to do what we're doing to animals, to non-human animals and non-dog and cat and non-domesticated animals, especially. And this lack of necessity is where the choices really matter between doing something that is right to do and that is justified to do and not. So not only the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics stating their opinion on it, but there's so many professional, high-performing athletes that have ditched animal and meat products, and they're performing at as high level as they ever were. Some of them have been doing it the entire time this way. Not even talking about athletic performance, but just our health. A whole food plant-based diet has been shown to actually prevent and reverse the leading cause in death in humans on this continent, cardiovascular heart disease. It's been shown to prevent and reverse it, most of it which has been caused by the excessive animal consumption in the first place. There's strong research against cancer prevention as well. The list goes on and on. I'll include resources below or attached into this video somehow. It's not only not necessary just for nutritional needs, but it's better without it. So the necessity is simply not there between all these high performer professional athletes getting where they're getting without the meat product shows that it's possible. Some of the longest living and healthiest cultures and places in the world have been shown to be on a minimal animal-based diet. So not only is this industry just simply not necessary for our day-to-day lives, but it perpetuates unnecessary violence for a product that we don't need and scientifically we're better off without. Not only aligning our morals with the fact that 99% of us don't believe in animal abuse. We're not judging your family members for working in those industries. We're just saying we need to evolve and grow, and others are, and everyone can, really. So all in all, I answered this question with the fact that your family member has choices. I didn't get this deep in the weeds with them, but I'm just riffing my thoughts out right now. So another really good question, and I wish that when I was growing up, and even before last year, before I learned what I know now, I wish that I interacted in my social circle with vegetarians, vegans, so I could have asked these questions. I would have asked way more intense questions than I was asked. And I would have really appreciated the answers because it would have helped me know what I know now sooner in my life. Another question that I really appreciated, we were asking questions back and forth. So I posed a question. If on this menu at this restaurant right now, there was a burger and it was a dog burger, a burger made of dogs, maybe from my Golden Mare farm. But let's say there's a dog burger. Would you order the dog burger? He wouldn't order for two reasons. The first reason was that he's never tried it before. And the second reason was that he didn't want to waste his money on it, especially if he's never tried it before. So the money part of it, the meal's being taken care of anyway. So, we kind of agreed to move along from that. But the not trying part, these were the only two reasons that he would not try the dog burger, according to him. And this is important. So the other remaining reason was that he hadn't tried it before. But I'm sure there's lots of things in his life that he just hasn't tried before. And I'm sure he's tried new things as his life has progressed. So in that of itself, that wouldn't be the only reason to not try it. The money reason was off the table. I mean, who cares if you haven't tried it before? You've tried a lot of different things. This is a hypothetical situation. I'm just trying to get a little bit more information from you. So once we agree that he had tried other things in the past at some point in his life that he hadn't tried before, then I asked again, so why would you not choose the dog burger? Now, this question was the most important one to me. This is kind of what prompted me to make this video. He now turned the direction of the dialogue to, well, why does it matter? Why does it matter why I wouldn't choose a dog burger? And that's the key question. Why does it matter that you wouldn't? The reasons that it matters are the reasons that you don't eat the dogs in the first place. You are taught to view these dogs and cats and animals like that in a certain way and draw an arbitrary line to view other non-human and non-dog animals a different way. So you're taught that line. And typically that really is all it comes down to. And it's no fault to you. Again, we're taught that way. I'm taught that way. I'm still taught that way now. It's just, I'm looking at it from a critical thinking point of view. This is where critical thinking is key. Asking yourself, why does it matter, is the first step to beginning that critical thinking, because that is the sole purpose of this. So I'll get into it more. And the critical thinking is important. I'm sorry for harping on this so much, but this sense of critical thinking, it's the literal difference between life and death between animal abuse or not. So that's where this critical thinking is important. So we draw that line with domesticated dogs and cats and humans, and we draw an arbitrary line where non-human animals and non-dog animals are on the other line, and they're okay to exploit and torture the way we do for a product that we don't need, that we talked about earlier. Being taught to not hurt each other and humans and dogs and cats, why is that important? So diving deeper into it is the important part of it, the critical thinking aspect, right? We don't do that because dogs, they're innocent, they're vulnerable, they feel pain, they suffer. They're individuals, they're someone. They have a specific gender. They experience the world not too dissimilarly than we experience the world. They've got families, they've got flaws, they've got things they're perfect at doing. You can teach them things and keep them together. So all of these traits, they're not different from the traits of the other animals that we send down the slaughter line, and we do all of those things I talked about earlier. This is why it's important to think about that and to think if these dogs and cats deserve simply the right to live. We're not out here handing out driver's license or anything like that to these animals, but they just deserve the right to live, not be abused, and not be turned into hamburgers, and to live their lives. Animals that we've put on the arbitrary line, we've removed all the rights from them. Like, just think about that line for a second. Critically think about it. So when a dog is growing up and it's weak or it's in pain, we would nurture it. We would take it to the vet, spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to make sure its eyes are okay, its lungs are okay, its spine is okay, its central nervous system is okay. Those are all things that we share with the dogs, and they're important to their quality of life. And on the flip side, when a growing pig, this is the arbitrary line, right? When a growing pig, like a young pig, what they might call a runt, when it's not growing very well, in comparison with the dog that gets the vets and then gets the treats and the belly rubs, and we want to make it feel better, the pigs, they're just grabbed by the back of the legs and thumped against the ground until they're dead. So that's one of the methods that they use to deal with weak pigs and pigs that are not growing as fast as they need to grow for the timeline that they're on. So when a dog is sick, veterinarian, a lot of care. We want to make them live as long as possible, make sure they're comfortable, be a part of the family. And when these pigs that we pay for are sick and they're young, they're just thumped against the ground. This is standard practice. When a dog is healthy, it gets to sleep on the bed. When a pig is healthy, we pay for it to get lowered into a gas chamber, get burnt from the inside out, have their throat slit, maybe bolt gunned before that as well, skinned, and then we eat it over the course of 10 minutes, and then we expose of it a little bit later on in that day. And this is less than a year old, these animals. So they've got their whole lives ahead of them. Think about that line for a second. That is why I don't eat dog burgers. You probably don't eat dog burgers either. Now, you might say, well, Stephen, they eat dogs in other countries. Well, if you look at it a little bit more, not so face value, when they do eat dogs in those countries, it's not even all dogs. There's still a little bit of a moral standard, just might differ than ours, but there's still a moral standard. And even though they eat dogs in those countries, you don't think that that's right. That's why you don't participate yourself in eating those dogs. And even still, who cares what they're doing in other countries? Just because things are okay or permissible in other countries doesn't mean that they're okay or permissible in the majority or in our society. For example, there are nearly a dozen countries where it's a very male biased ruling law, and it's actually permissible for husbands to rape their wives. There's all sorts of things that happen in other countries that are permissible, like female genital mutilation, and all sorts of crazy things. So we wouldn't look to other countries to model what we think is right. But there's certain things that is fairly universal, especially when we think of how people experience the world. And we don't want to infringe upon that. And we don't want to cause victims and suffering and take their lives when we don't need to. We don't need to. We've already talked about that. So that's why I don't eat dog burgers. And you probably don't either. If you've made it all the way here, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you subscribe and support. Remember, the goal here at Nolo is for a plant-powered better tomorrow for everyone.